Welcome to your favorite mortgage guy podcast, the show that brings you timely insights, essential tips, and everything you need to know about mortgages. It's time to get informed, get inspired, and get moving with your host, Steve Rockefeller. Because here, your favorite mortgage guy has your back.
It's your favorite mortgage guy, Steve Rockefeller, here with another edition of our podcast. All things home ownership, financing, appraisals, you name it, we're here to demystify it. Today, our special guest is Phil Hines with Hines Appraisals. People ask all the time questions like, why do I need an appraisal when my house is worth $1 gajillion? Why do I need this? What is the appraiser for? Who is this guy that's coming by and taking pictures? And why didn't he get out of his car? Oh, so many aspects of why is an appraisal needed. So guess what? We're going to demystify that today. Phil, welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Steve.
No problem, no problem. So listen, let me ask you a couple questions here.
Sure.
You know, I know in my job every day, people get a little frustrated because they apply for their loan, and not only do they have to strip naked financially in front of me and give me every one of their documents, they get a bill from us that's $650, whatever the number is. Why do I have to pay for the appraisal as part of the closing costs? And I'll say, well, but the appraiser's an independent contractor. He's got to do his job. Why do I need an appraisal when Zillow says this?
Right.
So I guess my question is, what's one of the most difficult aspects of your job when dealing with sellers and appraisals?
Well, that's a good question. Thanks for having me on, Steve. There's a few things is, to your point, not everyone fully understands the purpose of it in general. So you can look at online estimates, whether it's Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, or even some people point to like their tax assessment. The problem with all those is they're not actually going in the house. So unless you just have paid down a tremendous amount of your mortgage or have a ton of equity, the numbers are probably going to be tight from the bank's perspective. So it's just a risk management thing. So the bank just needs to know if we're going to give you a mortgage for $500,000, we need to make sure the house is in good working order and is you're paying a fair price relative to the market. So it's really a two-part process. We do a lot of our time doing the report, in the office, but we also have to do a physical inspection most of the time. And that's where you uncover a lot of issues. Like, for example, I just did one last week. The square footage was wrong by about 300 square foot. So
that's like a quarter of a house
for some homes, you know. So that can make a pretty big impact in terms of value, in terms of what you're using to compare your homes against. So there's a lot of things like that. And I'm a homeowner too. I think my home is worth probably way more than it is.
And you're an appraiser.
And I'm an appraiser. So, it's an emotional process. Everyone has a lot of pride in their home. Our job, I always tell people, is I'm like a umpire or a referee. We just call balls and strikes. We're not getting paid, if the house closes, we're just getting paid just a small flat fee, and that's it.
So one of the things that I think the average consumer is confused about is the difference between a home inspection and a home appraisal. Do you climb up into the attic? Do you go underneath of the house?
Yeah. So generally no. Okay. There's a big difference. So a home inspection is really optional. I think most buyers should get a home inspection, but the home inspection has nothing to do with the bank. So when it comes to like lending, an appraisal is really a requirement, unless you're putting X amount of dollars down, or it's just very clear that the property has a tremendous amount of equity. For a VA appraisal, you do. In FHA, you do look underneath the house, but you're not doing an inspection, a crawl space inspection. You do peek in the attic, but again, it's very different. I say an appraisal inspection, mainly we're verifying the square footage, we're viewing every room just to verify characteristics, and it's a pretty light inspection. Like I said, a big part of our job is back at the office, running the report to compare the properties. We're really more interested in fair market value We're not looking to test every mechanical system. A home inspection will be there for 2 or 3 hours, and they're going to really poke and try to find holes in any part of the house.
So, Phil, one of the things that I like working with appraisers, one of the things I like about working with appraisers is the fact that 34 years in the mortgage business, I've worked with a lot of appraisers. Some of them probably should retire. I enjoy working with young people like yourself because I feel like you're more progressive. I feel like that you're more in tune to the market value, and some of the appraisers that have been around a while tend to be more transactional. Oh, that house on Bow Creek Boulevard, snap a picture, slap a price tag on it. I feel like with your appraisals, they're a little more invasive, which they should be, because you're there to protect, one, the consumer, or maybe I should say, one, the mortgage company, to the consumer, because we're going to protect the consumer as well. What kind of requirements, educational requirements, does it take to become an appraiser?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I should also mention that I am also a realtor as well, right? And so both professions are equally important. However, the requirements for whatever reason to become an appraiser are much more stringent than it is to become like a licensed real estate agent.
Somebody told me one time that it's harder to become an appraiser than it is to become a hairdresser.
I don't know what the requirements are to become a hairdresser, to be honest with you. But I don't know. But basically, guidelines may have changed over the last couple of years. I don't know. But as a general rule of thumb, it's like an apprenticeship. So you have to basically train for 6 to 12 months. I think you have to do like over 1,000 hours of training. And
That's 6 months.
6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And you have to train under someone.
Right.
And then the educational requirements, I think there's 7 or 8 courses you have to take. And then obviously you have to take like a state licensing test. So
Continuing education.
yeah,
every year.
I would say it took me about a year to get fully licensed. And at the time that was like the fastest you could do it. So it may change. I think it changes state by state. But I'd say in general, it's about a 6 to 12 month process. And really that's just the beginning though. So, once you get licensed, it's just like anything else.
Now you got to get the business in the door.
Get the business, and like you learn as you're also learning as you're going too. So, every day you learn something new. For example, I have an appraisal coming up that has an in-ground pool. That's pretty rare in Hampton Roads for someone's house to also have an in-ground indoor pool.
Oh, okay. You threw me off for a second there. I got you.
So an indoor pool in a neighborhood. I don't know where I'm going to find a home that's sold in the last 12 months with an indoor pool in a neighborhood in Virginia Beach.
Well, I know of 2 because I financed 2 in my career.
Good.
One was in Fairfield in Virginia Beach, and one was over there in Indian River Plantation.
Well, we'll have to get with you after this.
Yeah, but we're talking about significant price differences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Guys, see, it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. He just doesn't go out there and take a picture and plug a value in. So is there any advice that you have for home sellers to prepare their house for appraisals? I know you have probably seen it all because, guys, when I get an appraisal, I typically don't look at them unless somebody on my team says, Steve, wink, wink, you got to see this one. Wait till you see all the broken down this and that and the other in the backyard, or the tall grass, or wait till you see the decorations these people have.
Yeah. Nah, that's a good question. So I would say a few things. It certainly helps if it's, presented well and it's just sort of easy to get in and out of. I'd say from like a logistical standpoint, when we go, we're just going to look at the house, right? So I'm not really looking to have a drawn out conversation with a homeowner or even an agent. And it's not about the personality of any of them. Like, we're looking at the house and what the house is worth and what the property is worth. So I would say just, on a quick note, keep dogs out of the way. If you can keep the floor clean a little bit to the extent that such that we can just walk through it and not trip over or have trip hazards. So there's some basics there. If you clean the house, great. But at the same time, like, we're trained such that if there are some clothes on the floor or the bed's not made, mean, we can see past that. That has nothing to do with like the value of the property. I would say more important things are probably, you know, if you're looking to add value, you know, updated bathrooms, updated kitchens always help. As it relates to like windows and stuff, you know, there are certain items that we have to flag for safety issues. So if you have, you know, a shattered window, that's going to be an issue. It has to be addressed by us because of the bank as a safety issue. So if you have like some windows that are cracked or shattered, I would get those addressed before the appraisal. If you've got super loose handrails or unsafe handrails or deck boards, get those fixed or addressed, because those are some pretty common issues that will get flagged. Because the bank doesn't want to lend, the bank doesn't want to give money out for a house that's got some safety issues.
So, a couple of questions that I get from clients, they'll ask me, is an air conditioner required on an appraisal? And my standard answer is, well, heating is, and a sink, but not, and a stove, but dishwasher, air conditioning is not required as part of the appraisal.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a window unit.
Right.
But yes, correct. You do have to have a stove. Even a refrigerator is not a requirement, right? And certainly not a dishwasher. I mean, that's still kind of a luxury item, right? There's a lot of people that don't have dishwashers. Sometimes it's just a space issue. And some people just like to hand wash. So, but yeah, AC is just, I mean, it will add some value if you have central heating and cooling or you have split units. But it's not a requirement, but you do need to have heat, and you do need to have a stove. And another question people often get or ask is, you know, like bedroom count and whatnot. It's got to have a window, right? So if it doesn't have a window, I can't. That's like a big closet. So,
Right. Okay. Wow. I just learned something.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have a window, it's a big closet.
Pretty much. I mean,
Okay,
you have to
all right.
have a safe way to get out.
I mean, you heard it here.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a window, you got a big closet. So,
Yeah.
So what about another aspect? I noticed that all of the pictures that you guys send in, and guys, an appraisal report is a literal report. It comes in color. It's about 20 pages.
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 pages. Yeah.
All pictures inside of the house, outside of the house, side yard. It's got measurements on it. It's a report. It's a valuation report. So, but what I notice is there's never any family photos in any of the pictures you guys do. What do? Do you go in and prepare the seller? Hey, get rid of those pictures off the wall, or is that the realtor's job?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, we don't. You know, like I said, my job's not. You know, my client is the lending institution.
Right.
So I think some people do maybe try to. Well, first off, by the time you get to an appraisal, you're typically only a few weeks away from closing.
Right.
So a lot of people have already packed their bags.
I got you.
Their stuff's in the garage. So I'd say that's one. But yeah, like we don't really advise sellers or anything of that nature because that wouldn't really be right either. But yeah, no, I think a lot of times people are already packed up, ready to go. They're just waiting on us to get it done. And then other times, you know, people may pull stuff down just to keep the house like as neutral as possible. So, yeah.
So on those rare occasions, and I say rare because it is 1 out of 10, in my opinion, that you do not find the value. Is there a dispute process?
Yeah, it's called what is it? Well, it depending on what loan you get. So if like it's a VA loan, if you're a military buyer, that's called I think it's called Tidewater. But basically, yes, you can. It's called a reconsideration of value, ROV. Bottom line is, if I do the report, and let's say I'm just having a hard time struggling that the market and the homes around you are supporting the sales price. Say it's $10,000 short of the sales contract.
Because maybe somebody just threw it up against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to say. Like anything we do, we have to justify with data. So even if you might be willing to pay $500,000 for a house in your neighborhood, if all your other neighbors bought their homes for $390 or $395, I just I have to find a way to justify that. And if I can't, then the value will be a little bit lower. You, though, as the consumer, you can do what's called a reconsideration of value. Basically, you just work with your agent and say, hey, here's a few different comps we want you to consider. And then I'll certainly look at it. Sometimes I've changed reports. I'm only as good as the data that I have.
Right.
So, and I'm not
listed houses you can't use.
Yeah, it's got to
closed sale.
It has to be a closed sale.
Yeah.
It can't even be a pending sale.
Okay.
And because, and if you've been in the business for a long time, you know that the deal is truly not done until
they've
done.
got the keys.
And
right.
So, as an example, I had a situation a few years ago. I couldn't. It's a sad situation, really, but the closing. The buyer had signed their papers on a Friday. It was a Memorial Day weekend. So that following Tuesday, the seller was going in to sign at noon. Memorial Day night, the buyer died. Drunk driving.
Oh.
Excited about the house, actually. The buyer passed away. How the deal completely fell apart. So the thing is, we can't use a pending. It's got to, yes, when I'm comparing any home, I've got to use homes that have sold. We try to find homes that have sold as recently as possible, as close as possible, as similar as possible. I wouldn't compare a 3,500 square foot house to a 1,500 square foot house. Even though you could make adjustments and stuff like that, it'd be like comparing a minivan to a convertible. They're really two different markets or two different pools of buyers and demand. So, yeah.
Well, so I think a lot of people nowadays go to websites like Zillow.
Yeah.
I know I personally do. I'm if a client says, hey, I bought 123 Maple Street.
Yeah.
I'll go look at it real quick because I want to know what I'm dealing with. More than anything, the reason why I want to know is because if it's a rural property, I want to know, okay, are the guardrails hanging off the porch? I'm looking for things that the appraiser is going to pick on. And in rural properties, we see that a lot, where there's some separation from the foundation or what have you. Depends on the loan type, right?
Yeah.
If it's a conventional loan, you're probably going to be okay, but if it's a government-backed loan, you're not. Do you run into many times where you have to go back and say, I need you to put a rail on this,
the most common thing that I've run up against is not necessarily the handrail.
Fog windows.
Yeah, and that's the most common one that I've dealt with, and it's not that common, it's those deck boards that are just...
Oh, the ones that are curled up and
they're just... Well, they're just... You could just fall through it.
Oh, okay.
There was one that almost fell through, and it's really just those deck boards that are just soft and deteriorating. That's probably the most common thing. I've noticed a few shattered windows. I don't know. There's one house that had just a tremendous amount of missing siding. But the main thing is really just these deck boards that just start rotting away. But that's an easy fix. That doesn't have anything to do with the value. It's just replace a couple boards. And you can either do it before we go out there in anticipation that we'll catch it, or you could wait. And then if we catch it, then you just have to do it.
Yeah, by closing. Yeah. Or if the home inspector picked it up.
And then that's still negotiable with the buyer and whatnot. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think fog windows for on a different loan, that matters more. Typically, it's the handrail, it's the decking, and then the windows are kind of the most common things.
So, guys, what you're hearing today is... An appraisal is important. It's important to me as we're loaning you money because let's just use $500,000 house. If you're getting a veteran and you're getting 100% financing, we're loaning money based upon a valuation that a third party is putting on it, not the third party real estate contract, the third party independent appraiser. So 100% financing, we want to make sure that value is there. Or if it's a conventional loan, depending on the down payment, or some sort of a government-backed loan, or if you're a first-time home buyer. Most importantly, you want that appraised value because you want to make sure, number one, your investment's protected. You don't care about the seller. We get that. But you also want to make sure that the house that you're buying is a sound investment. And there's two aspects. There's the appraisal, and then there's the home inspection, which is an optional report.
Yeah.
So let's kind of tie a bow around this. Why is an appraisal needed? People ask me that all the time. I have my answer. What's your answer?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons for that. So it's just to back up again, an appraisal is an opinion of value, right? So you could be an appraiser and you could have your own opinion that could differ from mine. Ideally, they're pretty close, because the way you view things might be a little bit differently than me, and that's fine. So as a setup, it's an opinion of value, and we have guidelines that we follow. Why is it needed? Well, it's needed for a lot of different reasons. From a lending institution, again, you guys need it because what you just said, you want to make sure the property is worth what you're lending on. And you guys need to be in a secure position, not just for you, but also for the buyer. There are a lot of other reasons why people need appraisals, and that's a lot of what I do. For example, I've done several where, for estate work. Someone passed away, the family's dividing up the estate. Everyone thinks their house is worth more than it, or some people think it's worth more and some people think it's worth less. Family's got to divide it up. They need someone to come play referee and say, this is what it's worth. And then they split it up. Divorce, unfortunately, is another big one. People are splitting up. Someone's got to, buy that other party out, and they need a third party to come in and say, hey, this is what's worth, and here's what you need to pay to buy that person out. So those are a couple different reasons. A lot of times agents, if it's like a complex property, they'll call me and say they need help pricing it, because pricing the property is pretty important when you want to sell it for top dollar. And so I do a lot of what's called like pre-listing appraisals. But at the end of the day, I think everyone's, especially in the world of so much information, everyone's just trying to figure out, what's my property worth?
Right.
Right. And so
that's the question.
Right.
That's my property worth.
That's the question. And so, yes, a lot of times the market will tell you, but at the same time, before you put your property on the market, you don't want to overshoot by like 200 grand or something crazy. So you want to be in the right ballpark. And so I think at least me, I provide appraisals for a lot of different reasons. But again, back to lending, we're just our client's the bank, and we're here to protect you, and you're there to try to protect the buyer, such that we don't have a situation that we had in 2008 where people are underwater. And on that note, I would say Hampton Roads is doing pretty well. I think we're a pretty steady market. I don't think you'll see us. We don't go up like Florida, but we don't go down like Florida. So I think we're Texas, and some of these others, Raleigh and stuff like that. So as long as our military stays here, and we have a strong workforce there, I think we'll continue to just be like a steady incline. And I'm optimistic about Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads at large. So
perfect.
I think I was just talking to people the other day. The time to buy, if you want to buy a house, and that's the right situation for your life, the time to buy was yesterday, and then the next best time to buy is today.
Right.
Because I don't think prices are going down in general in most markets. I don't think homeowners insurance is going down, and I don't think taxes are going down. So go ahead and get your property while you can.
Wow. You heard it from the expert. The best time to buy was yesterday. If you missed it, then you got to buy today, because insurance is definitely not going down. It went up 30% in the last 12 months. Taxes, well, we already know taxes never go down. And then values, very rarely do they decline in markets like we're in right now. Phil, thanks again for coming in today.
Steve.
I appreciate it. Guys, you heard it from the expert, Phil Hines, Hines Appraisal Service. I'm your favorite mortgage guy, Steve Rockefeller here. Stay tuned for the next edition. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to follow your favorite mortgage guy on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Have questions or ready to take the next step? Reach out at steve@mloans.com or call 757-301-9776. We'll catch you next time.